Hi, it's David Avrin with the Customer Experience Advantage podcast. So how do you create an effective, empowered, connected community of business leaders not hampered by distance? How do you harness technology to disseminate information, engage in relevant, provocative conversation? And how do you attract and build the world's most trusted network of business leaders? It's CEO Maverick, best-selling author, and global business celebrity Jeffrey Hayzlett on the Customer Experience Advantage podcast. Back in 20 seconds.
You're listening to the Customer Experience Advantage podcast with David Avrin, featuring candid conversations with some of the most influential leaders in business today. Sit back and listen in, or feel free to watch the video version online. This is the Customer Experience Advantage podcast, and here's David Avrin.
Hi, and welcome to the Customer Experience Advantage podcast. My name is David Avrin. I appreciate you joining in. If you are watching the video version, which is on my website, of course, at davidavrin.com, or on my YouTube channel, of course, all of the audio platforms, first and foremost, the C-Suite Network, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, all of those things as well. Today, I want to talk a little bit about building community, but I also want to talk about sort of the financial model behind that. You know, I think everybody in business is working hard at looking at what are some of the alternative models, what's happened during COVID, how much of what we've learned during that time in terms of working digitally, working remotely, buying digitally and remotely, and all of that as well. But there's also a disconnect that comes from that. There are a few people who have more masterfully anticipated and built networks that create community, that create conversation, and aren't hampered by that kind of distance. So I'm thrilled to be joined today by actually the chairman of the C-Suite Network, the C-Suite Radio that we are on, or those who are watching it on C-Suite Television as well, Jeffrey Hayzlett. Jeffrey, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here, and thank you for the kind of content that you put out there to the community, because I've been watching your numbers. They've been soaring, so they're very popular. It's good content.
I appreciate
it. You got good content, you get good listeners, good viewers, and you're doing that. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate that. And for those who are unfamiliar, and there's probably at least 3 people out there who don't know who Jeffrey Hayzlett is. He's a primetime television host of the C-Suite with Jeffrey Hayzlett, Executive Perspectives and C-Suite Television, business podcast host of All Business with Jeffrey Hayzlett. I've seen you on the big marquee there in Times Square. Global business.
That wasn't Photoshop, by the way. That was not Photoshop. A lot of people Photoshop that stuff. My stuff's real.
Yeah, no, I saw it I think a lot of people have photoshopped themselves on billboards and whatever else, but seeing that big face, that mug on the screen, that's got to feel great as well. He's also well-traveled, public speaker, Hall of Fame speaker. I was there in the room when you were awarded that. And then, of course, the authors of great best-selling books, The Hero Factor, Think Big, Act Bigger. I remember that was a big one. Running the Gauntlets, and of course, the Mirror Test. So there we go. There's some of the background as well, so people understand all of that. Give us a sense of what your business is and all the different facets, almost the Ted Turner of South Dakota, of all the things that you're involved in. And then I want to dig deeper. And for those who are listening or watching this, I want to talk about sort of creating not only a membership community, but what attracts, what keeps them, what keeps them engaged in all of that. And then a little bit about the financial model, because, you know, for those of us who speak, we don't talk about, you know, we're not selling speeches. Of course, we're selling wisdom, and that wisdom can be delivered across a variety.
Yeah, you're not a speaker. A speaker is a tool. Yeah, you're
but
really selling your IP.
Yeah, but it's also creating conversation, and where it isn't reliant on you and your participation. You're creating vehicles and venues for a lot of that communication to happen. So backing up again, tell me a little bit about your structure of your business right now and the things that you're involved in.
Yeah, the C-Suite Network is the overall thing. You want to look at it like a giant sequoia tree, and underneath when you ever walk into sequoia forest, redwood forest, you know, you see these huge trees with these giant, you know, canopies, and underneath the canopy is this lush ecosystem. And that's what the C-Suite Network is. Just like other ecosystems out there, like Facebook or LinkedIn or Amazon, where they create a platform or this giant, I call it the Sequoia effect, this giant canopy, and underneath this is this lush ecosystem. And that's what the C-Suite Network is. It's a trusted community, because what we do is we vet it. You know, you have to be a VP or greater in order to come into the group. It can be of any size business, because whether you're a business on Main Street in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, or on Wall Street, there's really no difference between the businesses other than just zeros, the scale of which you operate.
Sure.
You know, but the same problems, same issues over and over and over, whether you're an entrepreneur with a new startup or a billion-dollar company. And then, you know, inside this trusted community is what we do is we help people take their content and services and help them to grow it by their influence, their reach, right? Knowledge, skills, and of course their lives in the end, because we got to have a well-rounded individual or people or executives, or you don't have a life. And
right.
And we help people with it.
We've seen a lot of people sort of fail, and maybe from my perspective, failing in terms of creating networks that just become gigantic business card exchanges of networking. You've created a network more in the sense of a network of content creation and dissemination and communication and connection in that way. What's different about it, and why is it working so well?
Well, it's all about the give. I mean, so for all of us there, it's not about the take, it's about the give. Most networks that you see, these belly rubbing networks, have been around since the 40s and 50s and 60s. Yeah. That's what they've been. They haven't updated. They haven't done anything new for decades. All right. And we've studied this a great deal. And of course, I've been a member of those networks as well. But what I found lacking was, first of all, discerning who gets to come in, one. So it has to have some criteria for you to be there, some commonality, a purpose, and, you know, of sameness, of being a tribe. And if it's just anybody that can come in, well, that's not cool. Okay. Not that I'm trying to be exclusive to anyone. I'm just trying to say there's got to be a purpose. Like, I want to be sure that when I talk to somebody across from me, they know what I'm talking about, that we have some commonality. And then second is, I want people who are givers. The first thing you have to do is come in and tell me what your give is. And somebody says, what do you mean? I said, you got to give before you get. And if you don't come in with that spirit of what can I do for you? How can I help you? What can we do together? Well, then you're just going to be sitting there with a catcher's mitt waiting for business to come or waiting for things to come your way. Then you're a taker. And if you're a taker, go take it somewhere else. And
right.
so,
or even hounding others for that kind of business. I think it's one of the things
totally.
that you look at the dichotomy.
Some class.
Yeah.
Have some class.
Some of the dichotomy of resources right now, like LinkedIn and others, which is it is the tale of two cities. From a content dissemination perspective, it's pretty good for connecting, but in terms of communication, it's horrific. Anybody who you accept as a connection will pitch you within 9 seconds.
Yeah, it's digital vomit. I mean, that's really truly what it is. I mean, they're just getting it out there to more people faster. That doesn't make it any better. And so, you know, what we want to do is, like most executives, I want to know who you are, what you do, how you do it, the way in which you do it, what brings us together, what are our common connections, what are our common goals, what are our conditions of satisfaction. And these are the things that we want to know before we, jump into bed together.
Sure.
And as opposed to the other ones are, hey, let's just, can we date? They got a great pickup line, and that's what they do. And it's a bad experience. And so, like most people who are professional speakers, authors, and any business leader, we're trying to figure out how to make money in our sleep, and that's truly what we've done with C-Suite Network, was to create a network of other networks and bring people together and bring more of those networks in order to have a commonality of purpose. And so
right.
that's really truly what we try to do.
But in terms of long-term engagement, and of course, one of the things for anybody who's building a membership community, churn is a big issue, right? You can bring them in, but how do you keep them engaged? And I think it's one of the things that you do masterfully. And I will everything on the table, I'm a part of it because I derive the benefit from that. But tell me about the different structure. Talk to me about C-Suite Radio. Talk to me about C-Suite Television. One of the things that I appreciate is not only do you have these great vehicles and venues to broadcast these kinds of great conversations, but you're adding new elements all the time.
And new listeners and new advertisers and new everything. So, again, what we're trying to do is be the platform. Like C-Suite Radio, you can come and bring your podcast, or we'll help you start a podcast. Again, the new business right now, if we haven't learned during COVID, is that days are weeks, weeks are months, months are years. And you've got to be able to connect digitally. If you don't have a digital platform for your business, you're dead. So that's the biggest thing. There's a huge shift. And with that, how do you get known? How does someone find you? And how do they trust that you are who you are? Well, to do that, one of the best ways is content. And I don't care whether you're a dry cleaner or you're a billion-dollar business or a speaker, an author, a coach, a trainer, someone who's a thought leader, you have to be found and you have to have a voice to get it out there. Podcasting is a perfect example of that. It's an relatively easy thing to get started, relatively cheap to get started, doesn't take much. And quite frankly, now with technology, this is now a TV show.
Sure.
So you now can do that and put it on Apple TV and Roku and Amazon Fire, maybe even one of the airlines or in our broadcast network that we have as well, to go out to broadcast in homes, which we do every single Sunday. So there's lots of different ways to be able to do that. But the most important thing is to realize I've got content. I can teach people, whether I'm a dry cleaner, how to remove spots, what's the best thing to do, how to be the owner of your category, and then be found, and then get that out to your tribe or your followers, your fans, your customers, because that's the way we're now consuming information. We've always done it that way, right? We've always, have been a group of people who like to do certain things in a certain way. Like the other day, I'm looking for a rear sight for my Crosman 1377 pump pellet gun. Okay, the thing is missing. I went online and there are forum after forum after forum of people who are fans of this pellet gun. And I'm going, that's the nature of the internet. That's the nature of digital, is no matter what it is, you can find a group of people who want to meet about it. And so again, what we've done is been able to do that inside the C-suite with trusted executives, and then give you the tools that you need to be successful. That's it.
Talk to me about the difference between sort of the passive content. I mean, we've seen the tremendous growth of YouTube and some of the other things as well. Anything, as you said, anything you want to know, you can find videos to learn how to do it. Right. My son is 17 years old, and he was explaining to me non-fungible tokens on the way to get our COVID shot the other day.
NFTs.
NFTs. Yeah, Dad, you need an NFT. And I'm like, how do you know about this? Dad, I said, I said, I thought you were watching Breaking Bad. He said, Dad, I got done with that a long time ago. He watches videos. He wants to be an entrepreneur. He's graduating high school and he can learn anything. But what's different that what we're seeing through podcasting and others is a more active engagement in some of that content. Tell me a little bit more about your philosophy around that.
Content's king, activation's queen, and that's used to be where it ends. But the next thing is the context is the kingdom. So how do you get that message in front of the people who are best going to receive it and want to receive it and are ready to engage with you? And that context is important. So for most business people, putting stuff on YouTube ain't going to get you where you want to go, because how many people business-wise rush to YouTube to go and watch it? So you've got to be where they go. And so that's what you have to so not just you have to do it on YouTube, but you have to do it on Apple, Roku, Amazon Fire. And you have to be able to embed it on your website. You have to be able to tweet it out, take that piece of content, repurpose it 9 different ways, activate it 15 times, and that's a week, in order to make sure, and then continue to do that afterwards so that you can get your voice above all these other people. I mean, there are over 200,000 podcasts in North America alone. Now, people will say, oh my gosh, we're inundated. No, we're not even close.
We're not even
close to what it's going to be. It's going to be 10 times that number before we're done.
Okay. Right. But isn't that, Jeffrey, isn't that daunting for some who are maybe looking at traditional business models or other else?
Sure.
And I know, and we have the kind of the same attitudes, like, okay. So I mean, not everybody is Jeffrey Hayzlett. Not everybody is Gary Vaynerchuk, and being able to crank out that kind of content or having a team behind them, demystify it for us.
Yeah. But let's go back 30 years. Let's go back 30 years. What did you have to promote your business? The yellow pages. And so you just had a bigger yellow page than somebody else. And then you did this, then you did this, then you did this. Get over it. Get over it. Quit whining about that stuff. You're always going to have something that's going to be bigger and more daunting. It's called change, adapt, or die. It's very simple for your business. All right. And you can give up, and that's fine. There's a lot of people that do, but there are those that succeed at it and do it really well. So find out how to do that and get it done. That's our job. That's our job.
It is. Let's talk about the missing link, though, even for those who find some vehicle and venue to be able to, to broadcast their message, to be able to, and it takes practice, right, to get better, to be able to have those kinds of conversations. You and I are both guests on other people's podcasts often, and some of those are fairly stagnant, or they want you to provide the questions. And I just like having a great, robust conversation, invite people to listen in. Even as people learn to do that, how do they get beyond feeling like they're talking to the void, talking to an empty audience with ones of listeners?
That's okay, but if
building an audience,
listeners is okay though, David. Ones of listeners is if it's the right listeners. I mean, how many real deals do you have to have in a given year? I mean, the way that most business people should use the podcast is how to be able to reach the audience that they want to reach, not worry about being famous. You know, this isn't a game of eyeballs and ears anymore. It's a game of hearts and minds. And so what can I do to capture the hearts and minds of the people that are most interested in what I do or what you do or what we sell? That's it. That's the game. Game, set, match. And I don't need thousands of them. I'll give you an example. I was with the CMO of a major company, and we were putting together a package, and I said to him, here's what it's going to cost, $2.5 million. And right next to him was the advertising person who said, well, how many clicks is that? And I said, wrong effing question. And they said, what do you mean? Okay, I didn't say effing, by the way, and you know me, you know, right. I didn't say that. And I turned to the CMO and I said, how many sales do you have to have in order to pay for that $2.5 million? He goes, 35. No, actually he said 7. He said 7 sales. I said, but how many leads? He said 35. I said, those are qualified leads. He said, absolutely. I said, I guarantee it. He goes, what do you mean? I said, I own the media. If I own the media, I can keep running what you're doing over and over and over again until you get those numbers of leads. I said, now what happens if I make that 70 leads and 14 sales? Are you going to double my money? He goes, no. I said, then shut up and write me the check, which he did. And so again, this is a major company selling enterprise solutions. They didn't need thousands of people as the advertiser wanted or millions of clicks. All they needed was the right 7.
Don't we get hung up on vanity metrics?
Totally.
Isn't that one of the biggest problems? Because whether our kids looking at TikTok or anything else, how many clicks, how many whatever else. I think Instagram was even talking about eliminating being able to see how many people give a thumbs up or whatever else. Vanity metrics are messing with people's minds.
Totally. But I don't care. You know, if you don't, I mean, I had somebody following Richard Branson and I around and said, Jeff, I don't care about your post. I said, then quit watching me, quit following me. I don't care. You know, it's for the folks that I want to do. I write for my family. I write for my, you know, my audience, my fans, and I keep one's a personal side and one's my public side. You know, my personal side's my, you know, you see me posting pictures about my grandbabies and family and stuff like that. And on my public side, I don't do that because I don't need some weird guy looking at my grandkid. So, you know, things like that, which I do get from time to time. So, you know, yeah, I think the vanity stuff, but you got to get over yourself. You got to you got to move past that. That's not what it should be about. It should be about the engagement. It should be about the richness. It should be about the things that keep people coming back. You know, you were talking about, you know, especially with customer service, customer care, it's about nurturing. How do you nurture relationships? How do you make them of value? And that's where we try to focus the conversations, is around that real value, the richness of the conversations, the richness of the actions that we can take as a result of those conversations, and the content that we put out there. So we're very content rich. I mean, we're doing, you know, we got over 400 podcasts now. I don't know how many episodes, but, you know, we grew by 450% in listeners, 120% in shows last year, 137% in new podcast shows on C-Suite Radio episodes. And we're going past those numbers this year.
And it's the largest network, isn't it?
Oh, we're the world's largest business podcast network. Yeah. And advertisers, I need more shows and I need more listeners because I got more advertisers that want to put money in than I got those right now. So good problem for me to have, right? Yeah, absolutely. But and a good thing for our podcasters, because I split that money with our podcasters. You know, every time we do play an ad, I split that money with them.
We're talking to Jeffrey Hayzlett, chairman of the C-Suite Network, author, speaker, everything else as well. So talk to me about the network. Talk to me about creating that constant engagement. This is one of the things that really intrigues me. I'm super impressed with what's going on with the podcast. I'm working to build my audience and to find interesting people all the time to interview as well. But I like the structure behind it. I like that I receive a notification every week of here's all the things that are going on. A lot of people will have a vision, whether it's I'm going to do a blog and then they do it 5 times and then they forget it and never come back. Or they say I'm going to create this community, but they never visit their own community. And it by definition fails to become a community because people stop being engaged. How do you engender the kind of loyalty, the active engagement that keeps people engaged, which also coincidentally, not so coincidentally, keeps the revenue flowing because people are part of something that works. What's the philosophy behind it and how does it roll out?
Yeah, because we invite everybody to come be our guest if you are qualified. That's first. Come once, great. You're a guest. Come twice, you're a guest. Hey, third time, you better bring a hot dish, which means you need to join. You need to get involved at some level. Otherwise, we need to move on because, again, we want to focus on those people who are trusted executives who have opted in and make sure. Now, we have 350,000 opt-in executives that have opted in the network, but about 10,000 people that are paying at some level involved in the network, and which is fabulous. But the key thing is to keep measuring their engagement, okay, measuring their conditions of satisfaction around the value that they're getting, and then also making sure that we're nurturing that along the way. So I look at it just like a waiter does at a restaurant or a bar. When I walk into certain bars, they know what I like to drink, and that scotch is on the table before my butt hits that chair, okay? That is service. That's what we try to do. Your job as an executive is to be not the smartest person in the room. We like to think that we are sometimes, but we're not. Our real job as an executive is to be the most strategic person in the room, the person leading the business, and to soar us above at 35,000, 40,000 feet, look down and decide what the things we got to do. So our job is to do those things that will help you do that. And that's indeed what we do. So we really focus in on what our conditions of satisfaction are with each of our members and how we're supposed to do that at different levels. And so everybody comes into our network as a same member. Everybody's an executive. I don't care whether you're the small business, big business, everybody's an executive. Sure. Now, what community, what group, what affinity would you like to get involved with? If you look at what we do, we're a mastermind. We're a massive mastermind. We just charge in different ways. And I'm not trying to teach you the secrets behind door number 1 or door number 2 or number 3. I'm trying to solve your problems, whatever they might be, and how best to serve you. And that's how we focus it and frame all of our discussions is what problem are we solving for someone who wants to use podcasts, someone who wants to use TV, someone who wants to use a blog, someone who wants to build their own community, someone who wants to use digital marketing, SEO, and all the other things that we offer or help to package or partner with others, how to use a book, So again, we go back to those fundamental things about what problem are we helping to solve for you. And if
I was going to say, tell me real quickly about the communities that you create to achieve that.
Yeah.
So that everybody finds the room that fits them.
Right. So we have a room for podcasters. We have a room for authors. We have a room for advisors. We have a room for CEOs. We have a room for manufacturers. We have and again, when I say rooms, these are counsel, peer-to-peer counsels. Now, a lot of people would call these masterminds. Okay. We actually are creating a mastermind council, which is a mastermind of masterminds to help people manage their communities, their affinity groups, their fan groups. David, if you're leading a group, it'd be somebody like for yourself to help you do the job of what you do better for those groups, because there is a way of managing these, And many years ago, I used to be in the association management business. So I've got some of that experience, but associations, in my opinion, are really dead because they can't move with the strength of a network and with the strength of a peer council. And peer councils are very important, these masterminds. This is a coming together of people like you with a common purpose of helping each other be better at what they do, whether it be by geography, by size of business, by industry, or by position, or by some theme of solving a problem, because some are short-lived. We have some councils that are short-lived and they're focused in on certain kinds of things for a small time, for a shorter period of time.
Solving a specific problem at times.
Yeah, solving one problem. And we bring them together and help them solve that. And by the way, those are usually pretty lucrative kinds of councils to form.
Right. So how do you strike the balance? Because I hear the objection in people's minds, and I've talked to others about this as well, is I don't have time. I have no time for something else. And I'll tell you, years ago, I worked at Children's Hospital here in Denver back in my 20s, and they were rolling out, this was the age of the CQI and the TQM and the Total Quality Management, Six Sigma and all that. And they were rolling out a new program. And I remember one of the nurses from the back said, I don't have time. I don't have time for another initiative. I don't have time. And the woman's response I thought was brilliant. She says, this isn't about doing more. It's about doing what you're already doing differently. Right. And it's about finding the time to invest in that. But I get invited to networks all the time. It's like, who has time to be in these 4-hour conversations and I'm like, I'm working. So how do you internally have that conversation to counter that objection?
Well, don't come to everything. You can't go to everything. You can't possibly take advantage of all the things that are in front of you. Find the things that are good for you at that moment, that time, based on the other decisions. When someone says they don't have time, it's just they don't see the value of it yet. So let's show you the value of it. And once I show you the value of it, you'll make time for it. Trust me, you'll make time for it very quickly.
Right. Well,
But
the other thing I love that you do is that you remind us of the value that we missed.
oh,
For
totally.
those who haven't. I mean, I
Yeah.
think from a retention perspective, it's a good strategy, isn't it?
Well, and plus give you the content so you don't have to miss it. I want you to have the fear of missing out, but I don't want you to miss out, because my job is to help you get to where you need to go. So, and sometimes we're so in and heads down and we have the blinders on that we don't have a chance to see out. And yet that's our job. You have to make time for yourself, and you have to make time for your growth of you and the business. You have to. That's your job. And we get sometimes so involved in doing rather than, leading. And so this gives you the opportunity to lead, and it's well worth the investment.
Right.
I've never
And sharing and consuming and
yeah,
collaborating. It's all of those, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I always say what we're going to do together is we're going to, first of all, we're going to share, we're going to learn, we're going to cheer, and we're going to care. And those are the key pieces of it. And so inside the C-suite, what we try to do is then do it around three themes. First of all, are we relevant? The groups have to be relevant for each other. The organization as a whole has to be relevant. But when we get down to a CMO group, it has to be relevant for CMOs.
Sure.
And only for CMOs. It can't be talking about things CFOs want. It's got to be CMOs. So it's got to be relevant. The second thing is we have to help each other with reach. And reach comes in a lot of different ways. Could be context, could be knowledge, could be,
Platforms.
exposure. Yeah, exactly.
Right,
and then last but not least, it's got to have reciprocity. There's got to be a payoff for it.
Right.
And so you have
And not
to show
not to be touchy-feely, but to justify our time.
totally,
right?
totally. Yeah. And by the way, it could be enough touchy-feely that, I mean, look, in these masterminds, in these groups that we get together, these peer-to-peer councils, I've had CMOs who pay $75,000 a year, and we get together twice or three times a year with, 14, 15 other CMOs. But I will tell you that a good portion of our time is spent on the person.
Oh, absolutely.
And I've watched these massive executives in these rooms, and myself included, break down and cry.
Yeah.
And the breakthroughs.
Well, we've talked about this. I'm a former chair with Vistage. And so those, you go into a room, you close the door, you take off the mask, and you hash out your biggest challenges. And oftentimes they are personal and behavioral. And when I was talking about touchy-feely, I'm saying it's not for the sake of that, but that's all, it's holistic, isn't it?
It's part of it. It's part of it.
Do things that are important. Yeah.
The breakthroughs that you have in some cases are almoys, almost always related to something internally. Why am I yelling at that person? Why am I reacting this way? Why am I
resistant to that? Why am I paralyzed by the thought of doing that? We hear that a lot from our clients, don't we?
Oh, we hear it from everyone. But sometimes we have to, my first book was Look in the Mirror. It's called The Mirror Test. All the answers that you can find in life are pretty much in the mirror, for your business or wherever. And even though we think other people are responsible for it, it's really us. You make that choice. Just like you saying, I don't have time. Yes, you do. You just don't make time. That's your choice. Okay. You got time. Trust me. You got the same time I got. Okay. You have the same abilities we all have. You just choose not to do that. That's fine. That's nothing wrong with that. That's your choice.
How much of that is our responsibility as marketers to help people lift their head, to remind them of that, and to spark something that says, you know what, tell me more about that?
Well, our ultimate goal as a marketer is the inception of the idea all the way through customer satisfaction. So it is our responsibility, and if I'm failing to do that, then I'm failing that person, I'm failing that customer. So when I hear someone, and by the way, you and I've had this conversations before, and the first once or twice you told me no about certain things, like, no. Well, I just look at that as, I just got to keep going until I find the right way.
But isn't that the nature of this? That ultimately we'll lay out the opportunity, but they have to be self-selecting. And the people that are self-selecting, that opt in, are the ones most likely to stay engaged. And we have to serve them, right?
Yeah. I don't want everybody. I mean, I would love to have everybody, but having everybody was going to be a pain in the ass, because it doesn't make a difference. There are some customers, some partners that we will have that will just be a pain in the rear, and just the whites aren't white enough, the stripes aren't striping enough, whatever it is. I used to say that as a printer, that, when people would come, I had this one customer, and every time she walked in, it didn't make a difference what we did, how we printed it, the way we printed it. We always made a mistake. And then one day I just picked up her file and took it to another printer and said, I'm giving you this customer. This is how much she does a year. I'm giving her to you. I can't handle her anymore. And it became the best customer for him, and I had to finally fire that customer. So yeah, you don't want everybody.
But we have to have that conversation, right? In defining who we are as a magnet for clients and others. Do we want to cast a broad net and as many people, or do we want to be specified and specific in riches and niches? And both models work. It's just what's right for you, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. And what you want to do. It's like a lot of times people will come to me and say, Jeff, oh, you've got to do a course. You need to put a course online. Yeah, no, I don't. And I could, but I don't want to. And so therefore I'm not, so, it just has to be what you want to do too. You have to have your own conditions of satisfaction and be real good about that. But I do like what you just said, and people need to remember this: be who you want to be, what you want to do, and be very clear about that. Because when you're very clear about that, it makes the rest of the stuff easier.
Absolutely. Talking to Jeffrey Hayzlett from C-Suite Network, author, all around good guy, bacon lover, and cannon fire. You actually have your own cannon, don't you?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Doesn't everybody?
Not totally. No, but there is no answer. Totally. I have my own cannon. It's just, sure, yes, I have one or don't.
I do have a cannon.
I know. Yeah. What's the story behind that?
Well, because you can. I always wanted a cannon, and so every 4th of July I light that sucker up, and the neighbors come over from all over the way, and I let them shoot the cannon off, and they joined the Hayzlett Bridge Brigade of the Iverson Crossing Militia, which is the original bridge that you can cross into South Dakota with. And I make them all raise their hands, and they have to have a pledge that they will protect us from Iowa in case Iowa ever invades South Dakota.
It could happen.
You never know.
That could happen.
You never know. And if you've learned anything in military history, you have to protect the bridge. And that's the first thing you have to do. So now the bridge hasn't been used in like 70 years, but nonetheless, they moved it many decades ago south of here. And that's the real bridge. But my bridge was the original bridge built in 1873.
It's the ultimate gauge of success when you say there's something I always wanted. Coming out of college, there was like this motorcycle I always wanted. My first job, I got it. And then it became very, very different. And my gauge of success was like, can I have my own Slurpee machine or my own soft serve, or somebody wanted that favorite pinball machine or something that they had in college. Anyway, I just knew that was something.
Tractors on my list. Gatling gun is on my list.
That would, because
I have a lot of land, and I just, I could do stuff, and I liked it.
I was watching one of the MTV shows or something, and they were, cribs or something else about some of the celebrities. And one of them literally bought his own set of full-size Tonka trucks. And so in his back lot, he had a dump truck, he had a digger, and he just would go back there and blow off steam. I think he also had a helicopter, but he would like dig holes and would fill another hole, and he would push it with this thing. But they were like Tonka trucks, but they were just full size.
Yeah, but see, that would be cool, but like, I would probably put that to good use. Like, if you're going to do that, go dig ditches for somebody or something.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? Yeah,
I agree.
Don't just do it for fun.
I'm telling you, listen, it's always a pleasure to connect with you and see where things are. Tell us really quickly a couple of things. Number one, what's next for C-Suite Network? What's next for Jeffrey Hayzlett? And then how do they best get in touch with you?
Well, thank you so much. We're looking to see what's going to happen for us on post-COVID in terms of getting people back together. First of all, the digital stuff worked. Back when March of 2020, when we first hit, I said to most people, listen, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, I can't even sew a mask, but what most of us can do is be business first responders. So what we did was we moved everything online. We figured it out very quickly. We're now hosting hundreds of meetings online as opposed to 100 meetings in person. And so there's going to be a shift to that and a balance, and we got to figure out what that is. So my next big thing is to figure out what that looks like, how it's going to be, and the way it's going to be. To me, I think it's going to be much more intimate events, in terms of the learning and gathering and And so I'm looking for that. That's one. Second, and most important, is how I can get more content. All right. More and more people are drinking the Kool-Aid of the content in terms of, wanting it. So I need more podcasters. I need more TV stars. I need more authors. I need more speakers. I need more coaches and trainers. And I need more businesses that want to do that as well. So that's the biggest thing that we're doing. And you can reach me by just Jeff at C-suitenetwork.com.
Perfect. And then the website itself?
Well, C-Suite Network. C-Suite. You can look up anything with C-Suite and you will find the C-Suite Network. We typically are always in the top 3 of the searches because we've just been around and we've done such a good job. So just type in
and the content is just growing and growing.
It's just huge.
And I'm thrilled to be a part of it. Big thanks to Jeffrey Hayzlett being
You're
with us
superstar.
here today. Thank you, my friend. This podcast is sponsored in part by the Customer Experience Advantage Morning Huddle. Listen, some of your most innovative solutions to your biggest customer-facing challenges are likely found within the creative minds of your own people. I know Jeffrey agrees with that. How do we get our people talking, right? I will help you lead a weekly morning huddle conversation with your team. You can learn more about membership in this powerful global initiative by visiting customerexperienceadvantage.com. All of my books are available, and Jeffrey's books are available on Amazon, including The Acclaimed Why Customers Leave and How to Win Them Back. And my new book is called The Morning Huddle. Find that on Amazon as well. Be sure to click to like this podcast, subscribe, leave your comments below, and click the little bell icon to receive notifications of new episodes. And you can learn more about my keynote speaking, my consulting at davidavrin.com. Thanks for tuning into the Customer Experience Advantage podcast. Check out past episodes, leave a comment. Big thanks to my guest, Jeffrey Hayzlett. I'm David Avrin. Be good.
This has been the Customer Experience Advantage podcast with David Avrin. Feel free to leave a comment and be sure to hit the thumbs up button. You can listen to past episodes and be notified of future ones by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. David's popular marketing and customer experience books are available in print, as well as Kindle and audiobook, and published in multiple languages around the world. You can stay connected and learn more at davidavrin.com. Thanks for tuning in.